This interview is by Jeanie Means. Tell me your full name.
John Ward Means Sr.
Where and when were you born?
September the 4th, 1929, and was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Now, I'm told that you lived with your grandparents. Can you tell me why?
My mother passed away when I was 6 months old, and that's why my grandparents raised me.
What were your parents' names?
Eugene Rogers Means and Annie Starner Sena.
What were your grandparents' names?
Lydia Bell Sena and John Sena.
Can you describe me what they looked like? Like tall or hair color, their body type?
My grandfather was, I would think he was 6 foot, robust, and my grandmother was average, I would say.
What type of personality do they have? Were they strict or lenient?
Yeah, they were strict to a point.
How often did you see your dad, or what did he do for a living?
He had a lumber business in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I might see him once a year.
Tell me about Grandpa Seneff. What'd he do?
Well, he was a carpenter, and then he had a fruit farm. Orchard, and they had a cider mill that made cider and apple butter at the farm.
What about Gackie? Tell me about her.
Well, she was a very busy lady. Her on the farm, she was very busy there.
Well, in later years, Papa was an invalid,
Yeah,
so
my
she took
grandfather-
over all the work.
Was an invalid then later in life, and she had to do most of the work.
Mm-hmm. What is your heritage?
Pennsylvania, Dutch, German.
Okay, now, your childhood. Do you remember where you lived as a child? As a young child?
On Hughes Shop Road, when I was real small, and then we moved 1, 2, 3 places after. It was during the Depression, which my grandparents lost the farm during the Depression.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember doing anything fun as a child? Like, play outside?
Yeah, play outside. Ride my bicycle.
Did you have any responsibilities?
Yes, I had to take care of the chickens and
Wood?
later on we had hogs and I'd take care of them.
Do you remember anything that you got in trouble for?
Huh. Nothing outstanding, but I was just a boy that no more trouble than the average boy would get into.
What would happen if you would get in trouble?
Well, I would be threatened that I was going to get paddled, but, which seems that's the going thing.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever become ill as a child?
No.
Okay. Did you have any hobbies or did any sports?
Well, later on when we got to high school, I played softball, soccer, and baseball. And later on, after high school, I played baseball in a league for a team.
This is about your holidays. Did you, what did you do during the holidays? Did you have any dinner or Christmas cookies?
Oh yeah, we always had Christmas cookies and tried to have a dinner. But you look back, it was during the Depression and things was pretty tight. But we never went hungry. I mean, we always had something to eat. But there wasn't as much money to be thrown around like,
It's never Christmas presents.
yeah.
Well, speak up, tell them. Never was Christmas presents, I said.
No, I never got, my father lived in Pittsburgh, and I would get some Christmas presents from him, but basically that was it.
Did you ever go sledding?
Oh yes, very much so.
Did you have any fun events going sledding?
Yes, we did a lot of sliding with the neighbor boys. Would gather up. They always said that it was like a bunch of dogs. One would gather up and then another bunch and another bunch. End up could be 10, 12. And the neighbor boys, there was about 6 or 8 boys in that family, and they had a double decker which you could set 6 or 8 on and hit that thing. Usually the poor soul that would push to get them started missed getting on the sled. Now you think back, you were, it's a wonder somebody didn't get hurt, but luckily we did.
I'm told that you made ice in the meadow.
Well, the ice in the meadow was one of the Sundays the boys used to gather up. My grandma used to say it'd be like a bunch of, the boys would be like a bunch of dogs. They'd start gathering up. There was a family with a bunch of boys over on Uniontown Road, and they'd start, and then the Bear Boys, there was a big bunch of them, and we'd end up sliding. Might have been 10 or 12. But then the ice in the meadow was, it was wet snow, and we would tramp the snow and to make a run, and then at night it got real cold this one particular time, and I got my sled to go out, and my grandmother said don't go out there and do it, but I hit the thing and I went down and the sled runner bent under, and I went riding on my face. So,
Did you do any other things in the winter?
no, basically that was it.
What about school? Do you remember where you went or how
Yes.
small the school was?
Well, it was, I went to Pleasant Valley for 1 year, and then I moved and went to Uniontown, and I went there. That was in 7th grade, and then went on to New Windsor, which was a high school then, where I graduated.
How did you get there?
Well, I walked about a mile and a half to get the bus, and then the bus took us the rest of the way.
Did you have any recess?
Yes.
What'd you do?
So, regular sports, dodgeball, softball, soccer.
Were you a good student?
I'd say average. I didn't make the honor roll every time. That wasn't. Guess I could have if I would have tried better, harder.
Where'd you go to high school?
New Windsor.
All right. Do you remember anything funny you did in high school that makes you laugh now?
Well, we had the principal was a history teacher, and if you locked eyes with him, he'd never call on you. So if you didn't have your lesson done, you just sat there and locked eyes, and he wouldn't call on you. So, needless to say, the boys paid attention pretty good.
About the paddle.
Oh, yes. The principal had a paddle behind the door in the office, and I knew where it was. And one time the principal and the shop teacher had a meeting, and they went away, and I went up and got the paddle and took it down to the shop and sawed it up in little narrow strips and tied a string around it and put it back. And it wasn't too long, the principal had somebody sawing out another paddle. Oh, and then another one of the students always had his lunch bucket on the first table in the shop, woodworking shop. That he'd always grab it. For some reason, he wanted to be the first one out the door when it was time to go home. So the shop teacher was somewhere. Anyway, I go back and I nailed it to the workbench, and when the bell rang, he made a pass at it to be the first one at the door. All he got was the handle. He wasn't the first out that day.
People say, you mentioned about walking miles in snow uphill both ways.
Yeah, well, I lived here and walked out, that was pretty flat until you got out to Candy Hill, and that was uphill down to 97 or 140. So that was pretty level, but all this was mud then. I mean, he walked through the mud.
Do you remember any teachers that drove you nuts?
I don't know, wasn't none of them too bad. No. One, no.
What about your math teacher?
Math
You
teacher, I
tell
was
her.
thinking about, yeah. And of course, the darn boys, she had flowers sitting, and the one boy got the pot of flowers. Well, and it was in the spring, the window was open. He said, "Here, catch." And he tossed it to me, and I just kept on walking.
The Means Rest. How did you end up finding it?
Well, my grandparents lived here, and that's how we got that, and I lived with them, and then I bought it when I was old enough to work. I bought it from the gentleman that owned it.
Mm-hmm. When you moved to the Means Rest, what did it look like?
Pretty shabby.
Ow. Didn't have the porch.
Yeah.
It did.
Oh, he had a porch, and what's out there now, where you come in, it's where the porch was. Back at the end of the porch, you pick up the doors to get down the cellar.
Mm-hmm.
Just tore that all out. And of course, there wasn't no electric and no water. Carried the water from the spring. And,
The only thing you had was telephone.
yeah.
Didn't have electric or.
Can you tell me about the canning factory?
Yes, it was in Pleasant Valley. It was during the war, and I got a permit to work. I was 14. And they put me to work, run a machine that cut the kernels off the corn cobs. Now they wouldn't let a 14-year-old in the same room, but they said if you put your fingers in there, you won't have them. So and POWs, which was German prisoners, was during the war. They worked at the canning factory, and several of the machines was run by them, and if they'd choke them up, I'd unchoke them and things like that.
How old were you when you got your driver's license?
16.
What did you do the night of when World War II ended?
Just drove around, and
Weren't you at
yes,
Boy Scout camp?
we were at Boy Scout camp, and we heard about it, and we were, another guy and I was the leaders, and well, no, they had, the scoutmaster was there, but we were other leaders, and he had his truck or pickup there. We wanted to leave to help to get out of there and run around and celebrate, so we pushed it away from the camp so the other kids didn't hear us leave. So then we left and just drove around, and everybody was hooting and hollering and celebrating everywhere. So we was in on that.
Tell me about the time you ran the hogs through the dancer's tent.
Well, I had hogs in the 4-H, and I was showing them at the Tonytown Fair. And there was a burlesque show at the fair, and these guys that was older than I was decided that they ought to run this hog through the tent while the show was going on. Well, they didn't want to be the ones that drove the hog through, so they figured a kid could get away with it, so they helped to drive it up to the back of the tent and picked up the back of the tent, and I drove it on through and out the front. And of course, they thought it was a show there with trained bears, and these dancers thought it was a couple of the bears had got loose, but the only thing bear was them running out the door.
Tell me about the dirty legs.
There used to be some lady in town that she sold sweet corn and or produce and eggs, I think. They used to call her Dirty Legs because
She went out in the morning to
Yeah.
get corn.
she'd get corn and her legs would be muddy, and she was selling stuff on the street, which she didn't clean up too well after she was out getting all dirty. So she kind of got the name of Dirty Legs.
Can you explain me what the goose story is?
When you was a kid.
Oh, yeah, when I was a kid back here at Shady Side, which is
So
above
he was
you.
only 3
Yeah.
years old. So.
And supposedly they wore these little pants, and they said that if I ought to be careful, or the goose might get my little worm.
Tell me some adventures with the Bear Boys.
Oh boy. Well, outside of sliding was a big thing. Now all those homes along Hughes Shop Road, where there's houses, were fields, and they raised tomatoes for the factory. And these boys would be picking tomatoes, and if I'd come home, they didn't go to school a lot of times, even though they should have been, but they'd have to stay home and help pick tomatoes. Well, I'd be on my bicycle. I lived back Pinchville Road then. I'd try to sneak by without them seeing me, but if they seen me, look out, the tomatoes would fly, and their dad was hollering at them, "Don't throw them the good tomatoes away." And they'd be throwing tomatoes. And there used to be a gentleman back the road there, had an old pickup. They'd throw tomatoes when he went by. Occasionally one would go in and went through the window, or side window. That, and sliding, you know, it was a whole bunch of them, and we always had a good time.
Tell me about the years you spent on the road putting up billboards.
Well, after I got out of high school, I was working on the farm, and a friend of mine worked at putting up billboards, and one time one of the guys didn't show up or to work, and so they called, and I got to working as a helper. There was 2 on the truck, and the driver was the foreman. So I worked, I don't know, maybe 6 months that way. And then he was late for work one time, and the boss was mad, and so he just told me to take the truck. So I started driving then, was driving the truck, and I was the foreman on putting up signs. So I worked in quite a few states.
You were only 18 to 19.
Yeah, I was only 18 or 19 years old, and worked, well, pretty much up the East Coast a lot, as far as Connecticut, upstate New York, and Virginia, West Virginia, Kentucky.
People say there was a time you drove to New York City delivering something, and you carried a gun underneath your seat for protection.
Yeah, it was, I delivered liquid latex, and I had to sit along the street up there to for them to unload in barrels, which I was sitting there running the truck, and it was cold. Cop come along and said it was annoying the people across the street, the truck idling, even though it was streetcars running up and down the middle of the street. So I had to shut the truck off. But I'd been up there. Later on then I used to haul milk, and we'd haul milk and come down and pick up liquid sugar, like Carroll syrup or something like that, down in New York, and I'd haul that. Yeah.
Are there any stories you can tell about delivering oil to people's houses?
Well, not.
No, just about your collecting, trying to collect from
Yeah,
older people.
older people, when oil wasn't near as high as it is now, that while they were getting this pocketbook and that pocketbook, I don't know what they're doing now. Because oil wasn't, it was nothing then, cheap wise. And, let's see. That's, except the hazards of the road, and that's the way it was.
How long have you been a Pleasant Valley volunteer?
About 56 years.
Yeah, about 56 years.
How many years were you chief?
Too bad I didn't look on the helmet.
9.
No.
9. What was your biggest challenge when you were a chief?
Oh,
Getting them trained.
yeah, getting the training that they needed, and some of them didn't want to take it, but we worked through it.
Are there any calls that stick in your mind?
Silver Run.
Well, let's see the one.
Silver Run. Where kids were in. And she had set the house on fire. Okay, Silver Run. And those 2 kids died. I'm saying Silver Run, isn't it, where there's two little ones were right inside the window, you could have gotten them.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Mother had set that house on
Yeah,
fire.
my mother set the house on fire. She said she didn't know where the kids was, but they were right inside the window. We found out later. Lost that, and of course nobody lost life, but there was a fire in Westminster, which was land furniture, and corner of Carroll Street and Main Street. And the engine driver was turned around at the alley across from Carroll Street when the big tank that had flammable liquids in blew, and I'm telling you, the ground shook, and the guy laid hose to the forks of the road. He just left there. I looked over my shoulder, wasn't nothing coming my way, but boy, sure was a boom. Oh, there was some that was,
How about the theater fire?
yeah, no, this State Theater was at the corner of John Street and Main Street. That burnt, and the gray furniture was there too. And then before that, there used to be a J.C. Penney a couple doors up from John Street. That burnt, which we were busy in there, big crowd of people, and I heard these people gasping, and some clown went over and got one of them mannequins out of the storefront and was carrying it across the street like was a victim. Yeah, that's basically it.
Well, now it's your turn.
Now it's my turn,
Yep.
okay? So that I can answer.
Tell me your full name.
Mildred Jean Means.
Where and when were you born?
I was born May the 11th, 1930, and in Annapolis, Maryland.
What were your parents' names?
My parents' name, my father was Milton Wilbur Cook, and my mother's name was Mary Susan Cook.
Describe to me what your parents looked like.
See, Daddy was about 6 foot, tall, slender man, beautiful wavy hair that he cherished to the day he died because he always thought he was going to lose it, and he didn't. Mom was just a little short woman, 4'11". She had dark black hair, just a short, small woman.
Mm-hmm. I understand that your parents had the same last name.
Yes. Mom's last name was Cook. She was the daughter of Charlie Cook over towards Bradford, as we call it, because Daddy was from Stone Chapel area, but they were not related. Grandma's name was Cornelia Horn, was that. And I always counted ourselves as Irish because of the Horn name. And of course then Cook is very German, you know. Until I got married, and after I got married, why, John Means was from Ireland. John Means. So, okay, I'm Irish again.
When did your parents do?
in later life, Daddy was a truck driver, hauled gasoline and that type of fuel and stuff like that. But in his younger days, the way I understand that I become born in Annapolis was he was a driver for newspapers, carried the Sunday papers and the newspapers, and that's what he was doing there. And then he later worked in a factory where he was a presser that pressed clothes and coats and worked on that kind of stuff. And then after that was the truck driving. And he, and Mom, she was a home person until we girls got big enough to be on our own, and then she went working in the sewing factory after that. But that's the only work she ever did.
How many sisters did you have?
I have 4. And they're all girls.
Yeah, they're sisters.
They're all sisters. I don't have any brothers.
Where did you live as a child?
They say I lived in Annapolis for 2 weeks, and then we come up to this area, and I lived in the Medford and Stone Chapel area. I mean, that's the only way I can describe it. It was in Carroll County, because we were, I don't know it, but we were supposedly with Mom's parents for a little while, so that would be Medford area. But then his grandma and pop got married, why then we were in the Stone Chapel area. Yeah.
Did your family often sit down for dinners?
Oh, yes. Yes, we, as a rule, not until Daddy was on the road some did we not have every meal together, but other than that, yes, we were always together.
Would your family have any get-togethers?
Yeah, and, on holidays for sure, we were always together, and as we grew up and had families, we still was at Mom and Dad's.
I heard that your mom was a good cook.
Very
And
much so.
what was your favorite meal that she made?
Oh, I guess it's still today, our noodles. She always had our noodles. And something that we haven't ourselves, and we talked about it just this year, about making butterscotch pie. Mama always made us butterscotch pies, and to this day, I just haven't made it that much.
How did your family get their groceries?
In other words, as a rule, Dad and Mom would go to Medford or somewhere else to go get their groceries, and later we'd come into Westminster to get them, But like I say, when I was married and we come out here, well, Mama and Papa had no way of going anywheres, and so this green grocery van would come. We had well, in town we had delivery of the milk. Yes, I know that, but not of the bread. But we had the delivery of the bread right to the house. We had the delivery of milk right to the house. And but as a kid, I can't say I remember that except that Mom and Dad would go to the stores.
What kind of child were you? Were you shy, outgoing?
I'd say I was more shy. I wasn't no athletic or running type. I always left. Carlene was our cowboy all the time. She was running around shooting and going on, pretending, of course. But I was more quiet, stayed with Mom. I helped to cook with Mom. I learned to sew from Mom. And yeah.
Was it hard getting along with four other girls?
Oh no, I guess we had our jobs to do, and Katie was the ruler, and especially after Mom went to work, she was the one that, the oldest one was the one that made us do what we were supposed to do. Because I can remember telling the story about that. I was not that big either, and I'd stand on a stool and was told to peel potatoes and get them ready for supper so that when Mom come home it could be done. And one time I was standing on this stool peeling these potatoes, and there was a man that we was always scared of that would stand and come out and stand along the street, and we called him, he was Bumblebee. He made a noise like a bumblebee because he had been
standing.
had been shell-shocked in the war, and he was harmless, but naturally this man of doing this noise would scare you out your wit. And Bumblebee come up to the porch while I was standing there, and I remember yelling, "Bumblebee!" And I ran upstairs where my grandfather lived with us and made him come down because Bumblebee was down here. But Bumblebee wasn't going to hurt me, but I was scared of him.
Did you have your own room?
No. We never was able to have our own room. It just was never big enough. You had to share it with a sister. Yeah.
What were your responsibilities?
Well, like I said, when Mom worked, we had to help keep the house straightened up and cleaned. We helped prepare things for supper, for the evening meal. That was basically it. I mean, and do our own homework stuff.
What did you play with as a child? Or
I can remember having dolls that we played with because, you know, Daddy didn't always have the money to buy, but Aunt Beulah, an aunt of ours, always seen to it that we girls had different things. You know, played with things that you made yourself. We just didn't have the money to go buy. We certainly didn't know nothing about these fancy things that they have.
Did you do anything as a child that got you in trouble?
Oh, golly, I cannot. I was a good kid. I don't remember anything.
What did you do as a child for fun?
Well, honey, we got to play. I don't know. I mean, we had gatherings where we played together, went places. Daddy always took us for rides. That was our enjoyment. We'd go on a Sunday after dinner, and he'd take us just up and take us all for a ride somewheres. We never knew where we were going. He just would hit out and go on a ride and put all 5 of us in the back. Then we actually, 3 could sit on the seat, and then we had 2 little stools, one on each side, that you sat at so that you could see out the window.
Did you go to church?
Yes, we went in when we come into town. We didn't, I'm baptized out at the Methodist Church at Stone's Chapel, but we didn't go regularly to that church. And then when we come into town, we went to the Church of God and went to Sunday school and to church there.
The Depression. How did your family cope with that?
Oh, let me see. I mean, Daddy worked, oh, I forgot, he worked at the stone quarry, yes. He worked at the stone quarry and worked at all kinds of jobs, odds and end jobs in order to make ends meet to feed 5 little mouths and what have you. It wasn't always the best, but we always had food to eat, but as I said, it wasn't always the most.
I heard that your father didn't eat till everyone else ate?
He'd have a habit of that. Mert, are you sure you have enough? Which, that's what he called Mom, Mary. You sure you have enough? And he'd make sure that everybody was fed before he would finish eating. Yeah.
Holidays. What did you do for the holidays?
Well, we usually always had a meal together. That was one of the things. And we had Christmas and that, but it was just not a lavish thing like kids today think they can have everything. We didn't. We had a toy to play with or something to coloring books. It was very simple and just was not lavish in any way.
What is the tradition with the oranges and the orange and peanuts?
The orange and peanuts, it derived from, in those days, you only got oranges at Christmas time. You only got nuts at Christmas time. And the candy, it used to be like, well, we don't have that kind of candy today. It was a ribbon candy, a hard candy, and there was a gentleman that used to make it, and he sat on Main Street. It's where there is a loan place. No, a lawyer is there. But it used to be a bank up from the railroad tracks. And he'd sat along that building with this taffy ribbon candy that he made. It was mostly a peppermint and wintergreen flavors, you know. And it's just hard to describe. I can remember seeing it, this ribbon candy, and it was put in bolster balls or what have you, and that they would go and get enough of that to have each of us some of that candy, peanuts in the shell, and an orange. And as I said, that was something only that you had at Christmas time. That's the only thing that you had at Christmas time.
Did you ever play out in the snow?
I guess I did, but I can't remember any real sliding deals or anything like that. I mean, I guess we all did.
But
We'd be
living
fine.
in town.
Yeah, but then see, yeah, then we come to town, and let me see, I'm trying to think what year that we would have come into town. That we lived here, and then, you know, because I remember we used to walk to school, but we walked from, when we lived at Fairground Hill, we walked from there to where the school was, and that was over a mile. We really had to walk. But I can't, you know, I just can't remember much.
How was grade school for you?
Okay, I was just an average student.
Where did you go?
I went to what they call East End Elementary School, but now it's a restaurant. And then I went to high school, and that was where we went. From there to Westminster High School, that is East Middle School now, yeah.
Did you have recess?
We had recess, but I can't remember whether we had any organized play or whether we just played ourselves. I mean, you know, girls get together and play. I can't remember that.
Do you have any funny memories from high school?
No. I tell you, I was kind of a quiet person. I didn't get into trouble. I didn't. I just didn't.
What was your favorite subject?
Oh, I guess home ec, as they called it, but it included sewing and cooking, and that was my favorite. I liked bookkeeping though, and I was pretty good at bookkeeping, but because I took what they called the commercial course.
Mhm.
See, then they had names different than what they, you had an academic, and those were the kids that was really gonna be going to college. The commercial was ones that was gonna work, and the general was ones that was gonna be working. And the commercial, you were gonna mostly work in your field, being the secretary, being something like that, you know, which I enjoyed that.
Your teenage years. What did you do fun as a teenager?
Oh, honey. Teenage years.
Like, did you go out with friends?
No, we never went too much alone.
Mm-hmm.
When the five of us, and we wanted to go to the movies or something, our daddy seen to it that we got to the movies. We went roller skating a lot, but again, he took us, Mom and
Yeah,
Dad
but
took
that
us
was
up there.
later, wasn't it?
That was later, yeah, but we went roller skating before we started dating on some, because Mom and Dad would take us up there and let us roller skate, and then we'd go back home. And the movies was something else that we went. I can remember stopping from school when they, cause see, we walked to school. But Mom and Dad knew that we were gonna be going, they'd have a matinee, that we would stop and see a matinee before we actually come home.
Mm-hmm.
Then it only cost us a quarter, that I can remember, yeah.
What was your first job?
I guess my first job would have been at National Advertising, wouldn't it? Yeah, it would have been National Advertising. I was helping, it was considered secretarial work, but I was filing papers, I was mapping road trips that the guys were gonna go on from somebody passing it on to me, you know. And we had all of these pins that we put on these maps of where the destination was. I can remember sometime that the boss's little boys, which turned out to be Scott Bear and Henry Bear and, what's the other one's names? Harvey Bear. He had 4 sons and a daughter. Anyway, these boys would come up and Daddy would let them loose. And I can remember one time Henry started pulling pins out of the map. And so I was very excited and frustrated at that. Henry, you don't do that. I had to go back and find where these pins come out of.
When did you start to drive?
I didn't drive until after we was married, was it? So I would have been 19,
Mm-hmm.
20. Yeah.
What was it like working at the sewing factory?
I enjoyed it because I like to sew. And you had a job, whereas you had a certain machine that you did a certain thing to the coat, and then you throw it on to the next one. Do that on that coat, throw it on to the next one. It was okay, it really was, because I enjoyed the sewing. I enjoyed the people.
All right, now this is a interview for both of you.
Okay.
How did you guys meet?
Okay, you remember? You come home from a run
Yeah, I'd been working
on the National
signs.
Advertising.
And, the company was having a dance. And,
It was called the 3M Company, National Advertising,
Yeah.
3M. And every year it was, would it have been around Christmas time? Or?
yeah, it might have been. I don't
I
know
can't
who.
remember.
There was another one of the guys at work and I decided we'd go. It was at the Armory. And of course, a couple of these wild road men come in.
But it turned out, well, was that the one? Yeah, that was Dan said, Dorothean And Dorothy and Duvall had a date, and Joyce was going, her sister was going, and they talked me into going, and then Joyce backed out. But Dorothy said, you come on and go with us. So that's what happened. I went, and then's when I
So,
come.
the other guy and I wandered in there. These women grabbed me.
Because Dorothy knew him.
I went,
She had went to school with him. So she knew him. And so I wound up, I come home with him instead of coming home with Darthian. Because Darthian said he was all right. So, so that's how we first met.
What did you guys first think when you saw each other?
I don't know. I mean, I guess I say I liked him right then
I
because
thought, poor soul don't have no way home.
because I often think afterwards, I was going with some other guys. There was another Johnny that I had went with, Johnny Cooney, and all I talked about was Johnny, and everybody thought I was talking about Johnny Cooney, and I said, no, I'm not talking about Johnny Cooney, I'm talking about Jeanie Means. And then I got a card, and it was from Johnny, and they said, oh, Johnny Cooney. I said, no, it's Johnny Means.
Was it love at first sight?
Oh, I think so. I don't know about him, but he stuck with me. So.
I said the poor soul.
What did you guys do for dates? I heard roller skating.
Yeah, roller skating, and we went to the movies. Roller skating was one of our big things at that time. Yeah.
Occasionally we went to dance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right, we did.
Because you remember you
Used to.
go up to Hanover.
Yeah, to the Moose.
And
Mm-hmm.
They had, dances, and they'd have meals that they'd serve first, and then you'd go. Yeah, so we went to that.
How long was it for you guys to date until you proposed?
Oh, let me see. This was in our first meeting, would have been, I'm gonna say it was a Christmas thing or something. It was. And by September of the next year,
Mm-hmm.
we were married. We were getting married. Yeah.
Now, in 1949, you got into the accident.
Mm-hmm.
What happened?
Honey, to my knowledge, I can only think of that I blacked out.
yeah, she blacked
It
out.
was real hot, and I had come out of the factory,
Sewing factory.
sewing factory at that time, and I had went to the grocery store. I had bought a cantaloupe. I had bought a candy bar. And I walked up, my car was parked at the park where the Brethren Church is and St. Paul's Lutheran Church is up there. It was parked up there. It had been hot. I wound down the window on my side. Got in the car, drove around the park, down Green Street, across to the college, and then down College Hill. All the time, only the one window open. And there's where I can, to this day, hear gravel. And the gravel was on the right-hand side of the road. There was a mailbox there. Mine only tells me that I whipped the wheel when that gravel was. And when I whipped the wheel, I went to the other side of the road to a big abutment and went down into that.
Well, it was
It's like
a
brick.
It was abutment, but it was the gutter or
Yeah,
down to the abutment. And
Mhm.
yeah.
it's up above where the animal hospital is on the left.
Now,
now.
But the people.
It's where she run off the road, where that road comes out from the football field, on the right, going down the
Yeah.
hill.
And according to the story, my face hit the steering wheel.
Mhm.
That's what happened.
Slumped down on
Apparently I was blacked out. That's the
Yeah,
only
because
thing
she
I know.
didn't have no skull fracture. It from her nose on down was crushed.
Mhm. Tell me who found you.
There was a Graham boy that got me out of the car. Of course, he was ridiculed for getting me out, but all he could think of, he could only get into the back, and he pulled me back over the
Afraid
back
thing
seat.
might catch fire.
He was afraid it was going to catch fire, and because the engine was still running.
Mhm.
And so he pulled me out. Graham, I forget what his first name was. Anyway, it was
Mhm.
one of the Graham boys that used to live back the road here.
Worked for Bacher.
Yeah.
How do they help you? How do they
Well, honey, they got the ambulance,
Mhm.
and it was the Westminster ambulance, of course, at that time, because nothing else. And they took me all the way down to the University of Maryland, because that was the only hospital to go to.
Mhm.
So, and at that time, there happened to be a plastic surgeon in there, which is C. Park Scarborough. And I always call him my angel on earth, because he put my face back together again with the picture that John come with.
Mhm.
Because they said my face was so swollen
Yeah.
that
from-
all you could see,
From her
yeah, my nose down.
nose on down, everything was crushed. I mean, they said you could put your finger in her nose and reach her ear. It wasn't
Yeah. And I was broken down in here, the cheek, the bones here, and so,
Mhm.
oh, what's a mess?
When did you get married?
We got married in September 24, 1949.
Tell me about the wedding.
The wedding was a very simple wedding. At that time, Papa couldn't go stairs or anything. We had thought about trying to have it at the church, but Papa couldn't go stairs.
Mhm.
He just couldn't, and you know what our church is. So we had it here. It was right here at home.
Well, church was different then.
Yeah, it
The
was.
only way you get in was stairs now. It's
Yeah.
handicapped
Now we have
accessible.
handicap accessible.
Mhm.
But anyway, but no, we just had it here. Very simple wedding. We just had cake and drink, and that was all we had as far as serving goes. We did have guests. Yeah, we had what, about 15 or 20?
Yeah.
It was the family. John's boss, Tom Dobson. Friends of ours that we had stood for, Franny and Kenny Lohman. They're both gone now. They were here. And really my family, which entailed the sisters, and all of them were married, and not all of them had children. Katie had, but you know, and Ben, Mariana had, but other than that, the rest didn't have any other kids. Yeah,
How long did you wait to have children?
4 years. I know it was 4 years. I thought, I waited long enough.
Mhm.
And then I didn't want to have them too fast because I wanted to enjoy every one of them. So they got separated. 3 years they got separated. 4 years they got separated. 8 years.
What was it like in the house before children?
Oh, I don't know.
Was it quiet?
I guess
Yes,
it was,
right.
yes. Because Mama and Papa, they weren't very
Everybody
noisy.
done a lot of reading because there was no television.
No,
Mhm.
no television. Nope, we only
Radio.
had a radio, but that was it.
after that, what was the house like with children?
Well, it got full, huh?
Mm-hmm.
It got full. We had to share bedrooms because we didn't have, you know, not much space. We just said,
Well, we built this on later.
yeah. This was not built on until
That was the
Donna.
outside, that was the outside of the house right along there.
Yeah,
Oh.
see. But Donna was
Steps.
only a baby.
There, where the table is, and the logs,
Mm-hmm.
there was a
There was a
curved,
set of steps went up here.
curved stairway went up there.
Yeah.
And a curved stairway
Curved
over there.
stairway
It
went
was
up
two
here.
stairways
And then there was a,
and
Uh-huh.
curved stairway that went up here. That's it. You look at my
it's
cell.
like up to the attic, it's two stairways to the attic.
There was an opening here in the curved stairway.
Uh-huh.
So when Daddy had to, everything had to come in over the porch through a window for upstairs. And he said, we're gonna do different. When we
Mm-hmm.
built this onto it, we did away with that stairway, did away with that stairway, and put one up.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I've got a cupboard. Where the stairway was upstairs, there's that closet.
Uh-huh.
And where the stairway was here, no, it's just the wall that goes up here.
Mm-hmm.
It's do that, so that's what we did.
Did each child have a different personality?
Oh, yes, they all had a different personality. Denise was she wasn't my problem child at all. She was my most intelligent child in the sense that everything had to be perfect, perfect. I mean, with her sisters or brother, it had to be perfect, say. And dear Donna was my come-along. She was my second child. And we often laugh that we don't know whether she got sidetracked, but she incorporated her own needs, and she did what she wanted to do, and she was fine. Of course, John was the first boy, and he was an angel child. He was an exceptional good kid. He was a beautiful child. He just was. Beautiful blue eyes. And my mom would always say, that's what my son should have looked like. Because Daddy was a blonde-haired baby. He had beautiful blue eyes. And so she just thought that John was a blonde, had beautiful blue eyes, that's how, if she would have had a boy, he should have looked like that, say.
Mhm.
But she never had a boy. And then Jeffrey, I keep saying, I didn't need this when I'm 40 years old. He was a climber. He never knew what no was. He did not want to heed to no. He just did everything. and John, my mom would have trouble keeping Jeffrey because he didn't always heed to her. He would balk on things, but John, she could always talk him out of doing something that he wasn't supposed to do, or he would just listen. He just was a good kid. Not that Jeffrey was that bad, but he was a climber, and he'd be up on the cupboards everywhere.
Did any of the children have any chores?
Oh yeah, they had chores. Wait a minute. John, he definitely had chores. The girls helped in the kitchen and helped here or whatever. Just dishes, things like that, you know. They all had types of chores, whatever was asked of them.
What did you do for the holidays for the family?
Always was able to get them together
Mm-hmm.
as a rule. I can't think that we did anything else special. You know, Christmas time was the usual Christmas. Wasn't lavish, but it was Christmas. We just didn't live a lavish style. we had what you needed, and that was the extent of it.
Did you have any animals on the farm?
Yeah, we used to have hogs.
Yeah, you did, honey.
What?
But,
Yeah,
when
I
the-
had one. Didn't we have that?
oh, we had the steers, honey.
Yeah, steers.
Yeah, we had the steers. We didn't have the hogs.
No, that's right.
No, we had the steers, yes. Uh-huh. And they would raise them from calves up some, yeah, do that. And we didn't raise chickens. We would get chickens, yes, we would get chickens and raise them to a certain size. And Lucas can tell you of this one, and Jeffrey and them can tell you the story. We had gotten ones, we always got them through Hanover, these peeps, and they were a certain size, could get to a certain size. And one year, for some reason, because of some disease or something, we couldn't get them over the line in Pennsylvania. We had to get them from in here, and we could only get the white leghorns, which is the more gangly chicken. So, we were supposed to be able to raise them for 8 weeks, and then there'd be size to kill them. We did. And Daddy had killed one batch for me, and then we had waited a little longer, and that morning he killed me another batch. And when I put them on those scales, and they only weighed 2.5, 3 pounds, I said, that's it. I'm not going to feed them anymore. And I caught the rest of them and killed them all. And the kids tell about the chickens flopping around and all this kind of stuff. But when he come home, I wasn't finished cleaning all of these chickens. They were in tubs, cold water tubs. And he didn't know exactly what happened. And I said, they only weighed 2.5 and 3 pounds. And I killed them all. So that's what we did, kill them all. Lucas and them can laugh, because they were only little at the time. Laugh about me, Grandma killing all those chickens. I think it was about 25,
Yeah.
because you'd killed a certain amount, and the rest wasn't no bigger, so I divvied them out.
I heard that there was a lot of cats around here.
That used to be, yes. Let me see, how was that we had them cats? Well, we wound up, when the girls were little, they had cats. That's the time that Denise trimmed the cat's whiskers, remember? God, that was when we didn't have that then. We had a porch out there, and I can see it yet. She sat out there, there was a cement step, and she sat out there with her cat. I forget the name of the cat. It was a multi-color or a gray tabby, I forget. Anyway, at some time or other, she got her little scissors and trimmed his whiskers. And when she did that, that poor cat,
They use them as
they use them for feelers.
feelers.
For
The
feelers.
cat
He would just
trying
go.
to lick where the whiskers, and it wasn't the whiskers.
No whiskers there for him. Oh, Lord. So I guess the whiskers grew out. Well, I don't remember. I just remember, poor little cat.
I heard that the girls had ducks.
Oh, my. Yes. Aunt Betts used to hop in here, and it was at Easter time, and Aunt Betts come with these ducks. So, not being smart on what you do with ducks, except to put them into water and let them swim. We got tubs. We had, your big old wash tubs, because we used to have wash tub that we did our clothes in and all that. And set it out there in between the wash house and the house, put water in this tub, and put the ducks in. Well, the little ducks paddled along for a little while, and next thing you know, flippy, over it went. The girls come, no, our ducks, our ducks. Well, we picked them up, and they was gone. They was gone. That's all it was doing. Found out later, they didn't have the down on them that take care of the oil and stuff on them. And so this cold water, it just killed them, is what happened. And the girls takes these ducks down in the meadow, and they dug holes.
Had a big funeral.
Yes, and dug holes and put the ducks in, but I guess we didn't pay any attention or what have you, and didn't even think about how they were doing it. But they left the feet stick out, so they knew where the ducks were. Well, they went the next morning, feet wasn't there. No, the ducks wasn't there. Something had dug them up and gobbled them up. Skunk or something had got these ducks. So that was the end of the ducks. Oh, Lord.
When did you get indoor plumbing?
Let me think. It wouldn't have been until Donna was about 2 years old. And she was born in 56, so somewhere around 58, would have been 1958 was when we would have got into indoor plumbing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but she was just a little thing, and we often tell, they can't see where it is, but the plaster, the wall stuff was soft yet, and she comes in with a black crayon or something and marks up and down on the wall. That warranted a fanny, a little fan, and they had to redo the wall. Where it was, where she had put this black crayon on the wall. Because it was still soft yet in the bargain. And so we often laugh. We could maybe see where it was, but no, I don't think we can. It's been painted over different times too.
I forgot to ask, did the kids have any special toys that they played with, or?
I can't think of any special toys. Let me think.
Did they have that doll they call Purpley Green?
Oh, well, that their Aunt Bets gave to them. It was a doll, and how was it that they dropped it out the window? It was one of those hard...
Glass?
No, it wasn't glass. It was fresh
plaster.
color, but it was... But it all it did was crack it all up.
Mm-hmm.
Seemed like they did break a piece out of it. Well, the girls went and colored it in with black, so it looked like its hair. They had to patch something on it, and so it could give around an effect for the head. The face itself was okay, but it was the head that got all bangled up. And they played with that doll and played with that doll, and I think to this day, Jeffrey has it. I think Jeffrey has it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm pretty sure he's took pictures of it and everything. I think he has it. Well, that was one of the things that I can remember. But Aunt Bets had given it to him to start with, and they played with that. I'm trying to think of some of the things that the boys would have had special that they played with. You know, I remember giving John a Guyman haircut. He was about 5, 6 years old. I think I got pictures of it here. But anyway, when he come back from getting a Guyman haircut down at Mr. Paul's, I cried and I cried. because it looked like he had no hair. His hair was blonde, see, and it looked like he had no hair whatsoever. Never again will I let him get a Guyman haircut. Because all the boys, Guymans were redheads, so it didn't matter. But him, he was a blonde. Oh Lord, I'll never forget that. Doing that.
As you reflect on your lives, would you have changed anything?
I guess not, because we had a fairly normal growing up and growing together and all of that. Can you think of anything you'd want to change? I can't think of anything. So we've just had 62 years of good married life.
Mm-hmm. If you can describe to me in a word, if you can describe to me in one word about your life, what would it be?
It's been an awesome ride. It's been a good life, you know. To all families you have ups and downs, but, you know, we've always been able to weather whatever it was together. So we've had a good life.
That's good. All right, I think we're done. How long have you lived in Carroll County?
Well, you were in lived in Carroll County from the time you were about 3 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, because he, as a baby, he was in Pittsburgh for a little while, and Grandma Means had him, and Daddy, but they brought him back, and of course, Mama wanted to keep him completely because Annie was her only child, and in time, Daddy realized that this was the best place for him, so he left him stay then for being here. For me, once I come from Annapolis, which they said I only lived there 2 weeks, I was in Carroll County the rest of my life, and up here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Tell me
And
how.
you want to know what our ages are? Poppy is 82 and I am 81. So that's how long we've lived in Carroll County.
Tell me how the roads have changed.
You tell them what it
Well,
was.
it was all
Dirt road
dirt road, majority, I'd say.
Mhm.
back here.
Except for the main highways,
Uh-huh.
everything else was dirt.
Yeah. I mean, he tells me that they had in other words, coming in off of what is now 140. It used to be 97, but it's come off 140 only to the bottom of Candy Hill was gravel, and the rest was dirt all the way back in here. You know, I don't know how far they came in.
They come to the bottom of the hill
For-
and made a hard road there. In
But-
fact, it was a route number, a state
Yeah.
route number for a while, and then it got turned over to the county.
Yeah. And I don't know what other roads come into the valley that weren't dirt. I mean, they all come into the valley as dirt roads. And,
Well, Pleasant Valley Road wasn't dirt. I don't remember it being dirt.
okay, well, where we used to live, down Stone Chapel way, well, once you got off of the main road, which was, 27? Route 20, Taylorsville, a lot of that all back in there was all dirt roads. Yeah, because we traveled dirt roads the whole way. Daddy would, we'd have to walk from there to go to school And there was a many a day we didn't go to school because Daddy had to go to work, and it was either pouring down rain or it was snow so deep, and we didn't go to school those days because it was all dirt roads.
What about the gas prices?
Quite different. What were the prices of gas in your day? Do you remember? I don't remember.
Well, you could get 5 gallons for $1.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that.
Okay, but I don't remember. I mean, I wasn't, Daddy was the one that was buying the gas, and I just don't remember
Mm-hmm.
any prices.
Can you tell me some of the stores that have changed around here?
The stores? Oh, honey, all your dry goods stores are no more.
Mm-hmm.
Mathers used to be one of them. They had material and they had all of this kind of stuff. Mathers was a store that was an up and up. It just had nice things. They had the upstairs part was all your glassware and your cooking stuff and all of that. Well, that's now coffee music. That's what it is. There's no more Mathers, which was a nice store. We had more grocery stores in town, period, than what you had. We had an A&P, we had an Acme. They were all in town, yeah, but you don't have them anymore. I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, there was a little East End market up across from what was the old post office. It was just that type of thing is all changed now.
What about the movie ticket prices?
What I can remember was we paid $0.25 to get in at our age or what have you. We didn't go to the movies that much, but I do remember going to a matinee after school, which Daddy and them knew that we weren't coming home right away. We were going to a movie. But, I don't know after that as we got older what our movie prices were, but they weren't.
Well, I haven't been to a movie.
I know.
I mean, I was shocked.
Yes, I'd be shocked if I had went to a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How has Carroll County really changed?
Well, it's not as rural as it was.
That's
I
right.
mean,
Agricultural type.
agriculture-wise, it's not, it's still, agriculture is a big commodity, but it's not as much as what
I mean,
it used to be.
just come out Hugh Shop Road and just look at all the houses. That used to be farm ground. That was farm ground all the way out Hugh Shop Road.
That reminds me that in blue, it's not there next to, where we've seen all them blue stakes.
Yeah.
The
What are they?
grapes.
They're grapes. Okay, we saw coming out the road to go up to Montessori School, there is a patch of what looks like, I thought they'd planted trees. It's on your, coming out the road, it's on your right. But he says they're grapes. Okay. That's all right, they needed protected too, but I just figured, well, they grew, there's a whole patch
That's what
of
Kim
trees.
said this morning.
Trees there. But anyway, but so much has turned out. When you go out Botman's Valley Road, all out there where those beautiful houses are, it was all farmland. It was, the Herrings had all this farmland. I'm trying to think who else was farmland. Myers's, all out in that area, was all farmland. But it's houses now. Yeah.
Well, Hugh Shop Road,
That's one of them.
there was a big house, which is, you got to turn to go down there like the road used to go. It's a big brick house down there. That was the only house. And the one that's been for sale across, but that wasn't there then. At the schoolhouse,
Oh,
where
Yeah.
Gore is,
yeah, well, Gore
that's
goes. That was
where the Bear homes.
home was, yeah. But, you
And there
know,
wasn't no houses, on back, it used to be, you know, where John Baker lives, well, back there in the field, went back, it used to be a
Used to-
farm back there.
yeah, and then you
And,
come on down
Come on down the hill,
and around.
and right at the bottom of Candy Hill, Hidden Valley to your right, that goes back up.
Pickett's
That
lived
was
there,
up there, and the next
and
house.
Raymond Louis' house,
yeah,
and
the
Steele's
next-
house.
Next house.
And that was it, because
That
the ones
was-
on the right,
yeah.
on the left, was no houses, it was all farmland. Yeah. And then, you know, when we come up here, it was Dave and Margie's house, our house, Gagnon's house, then you went all the way back to Petrie's house, and then to Stairs' house. That was it. All the other houses that's built in, because Petrie's had all the farmland and stuff, and you know, all back here where Doc's daughters lived and everything, that was Petrie's farm. Yeah, it was all farmland. Yeah, they farmed it, and yeah. So it's just surprising.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.